WHO Talk Show.
Two centuries of human pollution it was what making the difference in the earth right now. And most of the organizations working with this topic, they work either at what's state level or national level, at DC, federal government, and etc. They're not so much engaging with the local neighborhoods, with the local organizations in the community, with the local politicians. And if they're doing a little bit of that, it's more like in major cities like New York, San Francisco, Miami. Don't have many organizations doing that in smaller communities like what's Charlottesville, and even Richmond. So
why do you think that? Why do you think that is? Is it because they feel like smaller areas don't need to be as concerned?
I think, if I'm being honest with you, I think that it's because it's real that you can make, if you have a certain amount of resources, like let's say you have like 10 people working in your organization, you're probably going to get major impact if you're working at the state or federal level, trying to work with Congress people in DC or General Assembly, than if you're working as a smaller community. And even though I understand that creates a gap in the what I call the climate movement, because there are not so much organizations work at the local communities and making that conversation with the local organizations and etc. So there is a disconnect sometimes between these state and national organizations, because they want to bring good grants and programs for the communities, but they're not working with them. So we're trying to fill that gap a little bit.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yes, indeed.
So,
good intro.
I heard some comments that were made on behalf of your organization recently when the city was having a discussion about battery electric buses. And that discussion led into the topic of disparities amongst low-income neighborhoods or Black and brown communities in terms of climate. And so that was what kind of piqued my interest there, because I don't know, as Charles said earlier, climate isn't always a sexy topic, but nonetheless, it is a very important one. And so that's why, we reached out to have you on to talk about that. So where should we start in terms of those disparities in climate that are impacting our Black and brown neighborhoods? What's a good place to start on that?
Wow.
Introduce that.
I honestly don't know which would be the best place to start, because I see the disparities all over.
Yeah.
It's just really hard to
Okay,
select
so
just one.
let's pick one then.
but let's pick one. Energy burden is one that comes to my mind.
Okay.
Energy burden has to do with how much households are spending in energy bills as a share of their income. And theoretically, the desirable amount is less than 6%, which is not, which is very uncommon. Let's put it like that. The vast majority of households in our community are spending about 10% of their income in energy expenditures. That includes gas and electricity. And sometimes if they don't have gas, that's propane or fuel oil. But usually in the area of Charlottesville, it's more gas and electricity. And when you stop and think the concept of housing affordability, as this defined by the federal government, the HUD, for example, it means that housing affordability means that households are not using more than 30% in their housing of their income in their housing expenses, and that housing expenses include rent or mortgage, and includes energy expenditures, water expenditures, like sewage, like everything related to your house, right? And the fact that you have lots of incomes, lots of households in our community using 10 or 15% of their income just to pay energy bills, like that makes really hard for them to live, for them to achieve housing affordability, if they are already using 50% for that, like let alone, and then add that out on top of that rent and mortgage, then it's about 40%, 45, 50%. So for us, identifying what are the pockets of our community that really are suffering with high energy bills, in our understanding, it's a climate initiative, it's a climate solution, but it's also a way to make housing more affordable for these households. So it's a balance, like you cannot reconstruct all the homes in Charlottesville in the next 5 years. But perhaps you can plan for increasing the quality of the homes in the mid-long term, but in the short term, you can really work with these households to make sure that their houses are in good shape and not wasting energy just because they have like lots of issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So does your organization support and promote like the energy savings, I guess it's energy efficient appliances and things like that, because you have some people who may not understand how it actually saves, and so but that is something that's one place to start, right? Is when you buy appliances to make sure that they have like the Energy Star rating and that kind of thing.
Exactly. The energy savings, just to make a difference between energy saving and energy efficiency. Energy savings whenever you reduce your energy consumption, so you are saving energy, but you can reduce your energy consumption by, for example, asking people to, take less showers, for asking people to cook less. That's energy savings without energy efficiency. So you're asking people to change their behaviors.
Right.
And that's kind of, I don't want to ignore that, but that's not ideal, because energy savings is like, let people still have their way of living, but let's have better appliances so that they are still doing what they want to do, but using less energy. And that's the path that we favor as the best one. And yes, you can achieve that with better appliances. You can achieve that with making sure that you don't have your walls and ceiling, even sometimes your floor is not leaking energy. In the summer, leaking cool when you're trying to get your home cooler, and in the winter, leaking warmth when you're trying to keep your home warm. So these are all things that we want to consider. So solutions in the long term, but also in the short term.
Right.
So
yeah, got you. Now you're making me think about the income disparities like that may come into play here as well.
Yes.
Because we could be talking to one group of people who may be affluent and may have disposable income to be able to make their lifestyles energy efficient. But then we also have a group of folks who, who are already struggling, and they're like, whatever's cheapest is what I'm going to get. Are there programs that you know of? Because I'm pretty sure like that I've heard of some that actually give people assistance when it comes to trying to maybe renovate their homes and things of that sort. But like, is there any aid for people who want to do it but may need some financial assistance?
Yes. Okay. Here I'll have to be extremely careful with the things that I state, I guess, so that I make sure that I'm not saying things wrong. But one of the major sources of programs like that for energy efficiencies come through our, for example, energy utility, electrical utility, Dominion Energy. My understanding is that the General Assembly mandates that a certain number of energy efficiency programs are offered to Dominion users. And that Dominion put aside a certain budget for energy efficiency every year. But what the General Assembly does not mandate, for example, is that they promote that extensively and they have to use that budget every year. So what happens year over year is that the budget that was set aside for energy efficiency programs, it does not get fully used. It gets like half used or even kind of less. So every year they're putting aside budget for energy efficiency, and then since the promotion, honestly, it's not good enough, people are not fully aware of what they can do and all the avenues they can get free stuff and kind of free help to their home and etc.
So would localities apply for a grant and then
What
distribute
the locality? Okay,
Yeah.
so the locality and what I'm talking about, dominion, is different from the locality. The
Okay.
household would have to apply.
Okay.
But honestly, the first time that I moved to Charlottesville, I wasn't still working in this topic. I was trying to understand like what was available. My mother-in-law, I was living in my mother-in-law basement, and I was kind of, hey, what can I do to help my mother-in-law reduce her energy bill? And I went to Dominion to try to understand what was available. And I got lost so many times because it kind of says, then go to this page, then go to this page. And after 50 minutes, you're back to the first page you were. And you're like, oh, I did something wrong because I got lost. So it's kind of so tricky for you to understand how you can get the benefits that it doesn't get used. So that's kind of... in my opinion, there should be much more investment, not only in put aside money for the programs, but also helping community members understand how to use the programs. Right. And sometimes the municipalities are trying to do that. So here in Charlottesville, you have a little bit of that with what's called LEAP, the Local Energy Alliance Program, which was jointly created between Armagh and Charlottesville. But at the same time, again, that's a guess, but my understanding is that of the resources of LEAP, the vast majority is used to actually do the things rather to promote and help inform the community. So the only people, the vast majority of people that are engaging with them are the few people that actually are aware of that and kind of want to take the benefit of that. And to your point, the people that have time to be familiarized with that and kind of know already that it's beneficial to make these investments usually are the well-educated, the wealthier, and etc. So I do see a gap in informing community members about the resources that are out there and asking for more resources where there are gaps. And that's in part of what we try to do, even though I feel that it's not correct that an organization like us needs to be investing our resources to be promoting the programs of other organizations that should be promoting themselves and make life easier for the users, not us. So I don't know if it makes sense, but
absolutely. Like, but you all are sort of a hub, I would imagine, right? Like people, like you're the sort of the nucleus when it comes to then branching out to the different things that are energy based or climate based.
We are trying to do our best. I still believe we are not at the point that we are as functional of a hub as we would like to be. But I'll tell you that we are having conversations with the city and the county. That's something we're doing right now to make sure that, first of all, it's easy for households to engage with a certain page, to understand what they can get for free and what they can do without so much time investment in frustration of feeling that I'm not getting anywhere, And then after making life easier from that perspective, I think that the next step is kind of engaging with the households and saying, all right, so now you understand, it was easier for you to engage, but what do you think was missing? What do you think, what are the things you wanted to do that you didn't find anything covering that? And that's the part that we actually want to engage with them to add extra points to the list and work with the city, and also, why not, elevating that to the General Assembly?
Can I ask?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I gotta interject this because I don't want to lose any listeners because this is good information. But again, it's not the most sexiest conversation, and I say that again because here's what I need you to answer for us. Why should people care? Because I still haven't heard us really dig into that yet. For instance, like, when you and I were chatting, you were talking about how you're native Brazilian. You lived in Argentina, and and so now we're talking about Black and brown communities being like responsible when it comes to energy savings. So the question at hand though is that when you look at all that Black and brown communities face internationally, like all of the struggles, all of the things that they have to prioritize just for their families to make it, how do we rank our energy savings and how do we care about climate in the face of all that? So
to be very clear with you, I don't think, and I very much dislike the idea of Black and brown communities less industrialized countries, less wealthy countries to be responsible for being the solution. I don't like that.
Okay.
And that's not what I'm thinking. That's not more what I'm supporting. What I believe is that, let me put like how, the way that I really see it.
Yes.
Climate change is a big issue. And I don't want it to be ignored. I'm a person who believe that we should try to tackle it. So there should be resources to reduce climate change, reduce our contribution, and etc. There are a few ways of doing that. The ways that we have done so far, which I'm not saying that there aren't exceptions, but largely, lots of the climate policy so far were not really oriented to favor lower income BIPOC communities. They were kind of used in ways that was not that. And that's what I don't like. So since there's going to be resources used globally to reduce our climate emissions, my desire is to make sure that these resources are used to reduce climate emissions and also to address social injustices and also to alleviate the challenge that lower income countries and communities and BIPOC countries and communities are facing. So that's my perspective. Since that there's tons of money flowing in the world in that direction, let's make sure it's not only used for climate alone, not for I don't know, EV charging stations for alone. Like let's make sure it's used to address climate, but also to reduce the energy bill of the lower income families, and also to whatever they want to do, actually engage with them. The way that I see it, it's like that. I think that almost every action that I take in a day, I could take a step back and think how that impacted climate. So almost everything we do impacts climate. So my point is, why should I favor strategies that do not help the community if everything can be a climate solution? So I engage with the community members to understand what they actually want to achieve, what there actually are the desires. And I think, how can I get that and construct it in a way that becomes a climate policy? So anything like, I want to have better homes. So I want to have better transportation system. I want to have a better health system. Like anything like that, I try to connect with how that can be related to a climate solution. And that's how I advocate for solutions that I feel the confidence that are both climate solutions and community solutions. I don't disconnect them. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense.
So speaking about carbon emissions, some of the previous comments that I heard your team make related to the city bus system and bus stops, proximity to low-income neighborhoods, and then how the carbon emissions from the buses then impact the health of the individuals who live there, lung cancer and different things like that. I don't know where you want to start in that type of conversation, but maybe we can talk about that some.
Yeah, I want to start by saying, personally, and actually as an organization, we are fully aware that the fuel of the bus is just a small part of the issue. Like really, if we want to talk about solutions in the transportation system, it's much more broad. So for
do you think others that are kind of have some knowledge of climate change and the issue with carbon emissions are aware of this as well? Like, are they familiar with?
It varies a lot.
Okay.
Let me put it like that. There is no consensus, and I think I really see people that are really passionate about the fuel technology alone, and I don't agree with that kind of one. How can I say? Kind of very specific perspective. I think the fuel is a part of the issue, but it's not as system. So in order to achieve climate change, we have a few ways of doing that.
Okay.
To mitigate, tackling climate change.
Right.
We have a few ways of doing that. one of the ways is we still have the same society, the same ways of living, the same ways of treating each other, and we just change the technology all over the place. That's not the way that I like, because technology change alone, first, I'm not even sure that we are there technologically to address everything. And the second is, if we're just changing technology but letting everything else be the same, we are not addressing the social issues. We're not addressing the social injustices and etc.
Okay.
So, for
Same
example,
behaviors.
I feel that it's hard to say that it's better to change the technology of the buses when we have so many people that are not able to continue living in Charlottesville and are being displaced to commutes of 30 minutes, 1 hour, Waynesboro, etc. You know what I'm talking about. And then, all right, we're getting better buses, but all these folks that are working in Charlottesville now have to commute 1 hour, 2 hours round trip commutes every day, and that's polluting a lot. So how is that better to have zero emission buses and have these folks not being able to live in our community? So if we are talking about transportation solutions, yeah, the buses is a part of the issue. Making sure people that want to live in Charlottesville and work in Charlottesville can live in Charlottesville or close to the center, like 10 minutes commute, not 1 hour commute. Make sure that they use less gas in their daily lives, that they can do shorter trips and etc. That's far more important than the buses. The thing about the buses that made it a priority for us this year is because the city committed to making this decision this year.
Okay.
And the city said in the last 2 years that they were going to make this study, and it was going to be a decision that was going to shape the public transportation system for the next 30 years.
Okay.
And we were like, all right. Even though we wouldn't start with that as a first topic, they're making a huge decision right now that's the right moment for us to engage. So we said, okay, let's engage with that. As soon as the decision is made, boom, let's go back to the other transportation topics.
So in your opinion, is their objective feasible?
Is the objective?
The cities.
I think, which one?
It's zero emission in X amount of years.
I think so. I think it's very easy to talk about feasibility as if things are going to stay the same way, when what is in front of us is a possibility of living in a world that's in much worse shape. As talking about inequalities globally, as a person that comes from the global south, Brazil, a country with income per capita about 7 times smaller than the US, I feel that, and we all know that countries like the US, industrialized countries, historically have contributed much more to the pollution of climate change. And it's unfortunate that it's not equal coming from all Americans. The United States definitely has lots of inequalities, and that the biggest contributors to that pollution were not the lower income in the United States and were not the BIPOC. But at the same time, I feel that it's fair that we, as still being a privileged country in the world scenario, in kind of industrialized country, our income is far bigger than the income of lots of South American countries, and let alone African countries. I think we do have that. We own that to the world in terms of doing our share. And in my opinion, Charlottesville has this possibility of doing it right, making sure we are addressing climate change in a way that's just, it's community informed and led by the community desires, and serve as an example of success to other municipalities in the country. That's what motivates me really to engage in this topic here and to make a change in our community, to be an example. I don't know.
No, thank you. This is a lot of good information. A lot of good information. We are joined, ladies and gentlemen, by Caetano de Campos Lopes, Director of Climate Policy at C3. And I have to say, what you made me just think of is, because I've had the privilege of traveling to multiple African countries, and right now something that I see in news outlets that that I access in Congo right now, like, because when I think about climate, I think environment, and like it's an environmental issue as well. That when these environmental issues get fixed, like you said, it then feeds into other issues that also can then be addressed. You know, because I think about how like all the illegal mining goes on, and like how like all the children and people are killed, and then not only that, but then the billions upon trillions, trillions if not more of revenue that is generated then does not even go back into the countries that that have just been pillaged.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So yeah, so the the environment is such a big deal. But the question that I wanted to ask you within all that though is because I hear you saying that one of the big reasons that we should be paying attention like to climate control and like energy efficiency is that then can help control the cost of it, if I heard you correctly. Like the way that we use it affects the cost, right?
Exactly.
But I'm curious, like, what's the threshold of that becoming a political thing, though? Because you look at a company like Dominion and things like that. You look at these big, big major corporations, and at some point, it's like you guys are inflating the prices. It's not that it has to be quite this much. So I'm curious, is there like a threshold of like it's like an activism issue as well as a climate control issue?
Okay, so here's my perspective on that. Everything's so my background, besides being a professional in this area, I studied economics and environmental management. And from the economics perspective, I was going to tell a little bit why I studied economics, but I will answer your question so that I don't deviate a lot. But I'll tell you that economics can be a tool for the good or for the evil, depending on how you use it. So you have to be really careful in the small letters on how you're shaping your solution. So yes, electricity costs can be much higher, right? The rate of the electricity, if we are getting all these solutions and etc., all these programs. Indeed, when you are creating the energy efficiency programs from Dominion, someone is paying for that. And usually it's the customers. But the energy efficiency programs from programs of Dominion, for example, lots of them, you can only access it if you're lower income, if you're a senior, or if you're a veteran, lower income household. And they're pretty flexible with lower income. I think it's 80% of AMI, something like that, which in Charlottesville, it's a household earning something like $65,000 per year. So, I mean, it's not as if you need to be poor to access it. It can be a moderate income household. But the thing is, I'm not saying it's working well right now, but you can create lots of these programs being paid by the customers. And as long as you're creating robust programs that are really making a difference, programs that are easy to access and really getting the homes of these customers in nice shape, good shape. And if the rate is bigger, but it's mostly being paid by the wealthier customers, all these benefits. For example, Dominion could create something like, if you're a lower income, you're going to pay a lower rate. If you're lower income, you're going to something. As long as you're creating that, if the rate is higher, but actually who is paying that higher rate, it's the wealthier households. And actually all these programs are being funneled, are being channeled to increase the quality of those that really need. I must say that I'm okay with that. So everything depends on how you're shaping it. If you shape it wrongly, and all the costs of all these cool stuff, energy efficiency and green energy are being shared equally, that's inequitable. Like we cannot get the same rate being paid by the higher income and the lower income.
Right.
But so it's a matter of design. It's a matter of policy. It's a matter of the General Assembly engaging with the Dominion to create the rules in the right way. And sometimes you could say that the rules are not in the right way precisely because they want to create that shock between those that want to create some kind of nice things and those that want to leave some sort of sabotage, to leave some sort of elements that are going to make this explode a couple of years from now, because people are going to be against each other. So I think it's a matter of policy. It's a matter of make sure that we're getting things the right way. And I think that there are good people in this state trying to do that. So
I agree with you. But people would call us socialists. What I just heard you say, it sounds like politically they would make it a taxation issue. They would say, well, then you're penalizing the wealthy and like you're penalizing them for being successful. The political jargon that goes along with that. But what you're saying makes total sense. Right.
Thank you. It's difficult. It's thanks for saying that. Yeah, it's difficult. But otherwise you would be charging everybody the same for this energy transition. And let me put it like that. Making the electricity cost rates higher feels like some sort of carbon pricing because you're trying to get the electricity to be cleaner and meeting our climate goals. And perhaps to reduce consumption because it's more expensive. And that's a common strategy to do some carbon pricing. But carbon pricing itself is what's called a regressive taxation. So getting everybody to pay the same rate is actually regressive.
Yeah.
So because people have different incomes and so I think it's not being so radical to ask for the rates to be more according. The same way that taxation. Do you agree that taxes change depending on your income level? If you are lower income, perhaps you're not even paying taxes. And then there is a level that you're paying 10%, then 12%, then 20%. As you go up in the income scale, you are paying higher percentages of tax. We all agree with that. It's not socialist. So why can't we get something like that for energy?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So what can we, citizens of Charlottesville surrounding areas, do right now? How do we mobilize to help fight against climate change and help advocate for all the right things that we need those and our officials, the decisions we need them to make that benefit us and ensure that we have a healthy environment?
Cool. So honestly, if you have an interest, if you have an idea, if you have a concern, if you want to talk, I would like to make myself available as well. Okay. So first of all, if you want to touch base, my email is that a way for you to share it written or?
Absolutely. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, cool. My email is Caetano at theclimatecollaborative.org. It's CAETANO, or you can even email policy at theclimatecollaborative.org. And I would, first of all, if you have if you want to just kind of have a conversation to understand the topic better and kind of share your concerns and your ideas, that's the easiest way for you to have an open-ended conversation. And I want to put myself offer my time. And then if you already know what I'm saying that why I'm saying that, because here's the thing, Max. You just asked me a question of how can people support, right? I believe that solutions need to be shaped from the commute up. Okay. And if I tell you, people can support 3 things, 1, 2, 3, I'm telling them what they can support, right? The things that they can do, can support, and what's working. I'm a believer of the opposite. So as of right now, I want to hear from people what they want to be changed and what they want to be done. And if they don't even know where to start, that's why I'm offering my email. Let's talk. But there are so many things. help talk about transportation. Sometimes one way of to be informed of what's going on, it's following our newsletter as well. You go to our website, follow our newsletter, you're going to be informed of things that are going on. But besides that, the major topics that we're trying to engage with are transportation, and that's a lot of things, even beyond public transportation. It's how we shape our community, how we shape the public transportation system, but how we shape the places in our community, the streets, the sidewalks, but also where things are, because maybe there is somewhere that I want to be able to go regularly, and it's 1.5 miles from my home. Yes, you can pave all the way with sidewalks. Another solution is that can we have more places distributed in the community so that I need to walk 0.5 mile instead of 2 miles or something like that. And that's a matter of this zoning. You might feel that I'm being too idealistic. It's not so
I'm wondering
crazy.
how we're going to accomplish some of these things.
But it's also crazy. Like let me tell you, some of the pharmacies and some of the supermarkets, groceries in these communities are of the biggest that I've ever been. They're very huge. And some other places that I've lived, pharmacies are 10 times smaller or 5 times smaller, and supermarkets are 20 times smaller, but they're all over the place, sorts of. So for the basic stuff that you just want to buy something small for this dinner and etc., there is always a place that's kind of 5 blocks. And when you want to do like the monthly or the weekly purchases, then you go to a place that's bigger because you want to buy all the bulk. But this way of living that we live with few spots in the community, and every one of these spots are huge. It's because how we shaped the community. So this is the zoning conversation that the city is doing right now. For example, about 3/4 of our community, you can only have homes, and usually single family homes. So it's not what I'm trying to say is that people would say, well, if there was a will for smaller groceries, there would already be smaller groceries. The market would have created that. That's a lie, because so far it was prohibited for in residential neighborhoods, in a lot of the residential neighborhoods, for you to also have a grocery, for you to also have a pharmacy. And that's not because of the market not willing, it's because of prohibition. So by allowing the community to be more flexible, you can create a community that's easier to navigate, easier to live. So these are all things that we want to engage with. Energy bills, making sure that people have the basic access to what they can do, so that things are not in a incomprehensible language that they want to try to consider this or that, and everything feels so disconnected to them. We want to make things more easy to understand and accessible. So that if people are not doing that, it's really because they don't want to. It's not because they are not even able to engage with that.
Right. I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing your time with us here, talking about
Indeed.
climate. That it seems it can be a little bit, at least for me anyway, it can be feel a little bit overwhelming, because there's, it's just, and that's probably mostly due to my ignorance on the topic. But you shared a lot of good information here today, and it's certainly important information, something that we should all, take into account. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
And we'll hope to have you back one day.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Max and Charles. Appreciate it.